Start the Town of Ayer Select Board meeting for Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. This hearing of the Ayer Select Board will be held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation via Zoom is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in a specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. This meeting will be live on Zoom and Channel 8. The public may access the proceedings by joining Zoom meeting ID number 897-9080-0793 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, the Assistant Town Manager, at atm@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100, prior to the meeting. I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any changes to the agenda? Nope. Okay. I'll make a motion that the board approve the agenda as presented.
Seconded.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Agenda is approved. Any announcements this evening? No? I'd say the only announcement is that I'd like to welcome our newest member, Chris Tavares. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Anybody on for public input this evening or here for public input? Okay. If you're not seeing or hearing any, move on to the ratification of the appointment of the Parks Director.
Mr. Chairman, good evening, and to members of the board. Through you, I'd ask Sarah Ernst to come up to the table. Members of the Select Board, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to the board Ms. Sarah Ernst as candidate for Parks Director. You have all of Sarah's materials in the packet. I'd like to highlight that Sarah's been currently working for the Parks Department, which is great. She knows the town, she knows the department. She also has been working with the Ayer Shirley Regional School District athletic director and facilities up there. So she brings a wealth of knowledge to the position. I believe she's going to hit the ground running, already has. I want to just point out that the Ayer Parks Commission did vote unanimously to recommend her appointment. We did publicly advertise for the position on the town's website, social media, the Mass Municipal Association, and the Mass Recreation and Parks Association job board. She was interviewed, as I mentioned, by the commission that unanimously recommended her, and we also met. I interviewed her as well. So she is before you tonight. I'm respectfully requesting, after any questions that the board may have for Sarah, that the board vote to ratify the appointment of Ms. Sarah Ernst as Parks Director, and it would be effective May 22nd of 2024, and she will start at grade 11, step 1, per the town's non-union compensation and classification grid, which is in your packet. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it over to you if the board has any questions for Sarah.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I don't have any questions for you. Do you want to say just a few words about why you want this position?
Sure, yeah. So growing up, I was a part of the rec programs. I started in the 3rd grade. And once I started doing that softball workout, like that first week up and running at Page Hilltop, I knew that I wanted to be a Jeff Thomas one day. He really has been my role model my whole life. And so even I did sports management for a career in college and my master's because of him. Every project I could possibly do was about that man. So I just want to do it justice and live in his legacy.
Awesome. Chris, any questions?
So, I was on the Parks Commission, part of the vote to recommend Sarah. I have the utmost faith in her. I think she'll do a wonderful job. So I'm ready.
Okay. All right, I'll make a motion that the board approve Ms. Sarah Ernst's employment contract as the new Parks Director.
Seconded.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Dan, come on down.
Good evening,
Dan.
Mr. Chair.
How are you?
Congratulations, Mr. Tavares.
Thank you.
So DPW report this week. I don't have any actionable items, just some updates. And the first is related to the Stormwater Utility Advisory Work Group. Just want to give an update on where that group is at. So just in summary, overall, we've been meeting since September on a monthly basis, evaluating a stormwater utility fund, and the work group and also our consultant are involved. Utility fund, it's not a new thing, as we know. There's many communities that have it, and the town of Ayer is vested into looking into it. And the work group at this point came to a point where we've drafted a rate structure for a stormwater utility and a policy or regulation for the stormwater utility. And so the next step is the work group's going to go out and obtain some public input. So we're going to make all of this, all of this is up and available on the website now, but go out to a meeting, set one up. It's going to be likely on June 20th. I just got to confirm the date and a location, but that's what we're aiming to do, and obtain public input on where the work group's at with its policies, with its rate structure, and get feedback. And just a reminder, like I mentioned, the work group, we do have a dedicated website on the town webpage with all the materials up there from every meeting that's been ongoing. And I know, unfortunately, Janice can't be here, but she was supportive of this approach of us heading out at this time as the work group to go get public input and information. So that's kind of in a nutshell where it's at. No details tonight, but a lot of details on, hopefully it'll be June 20th, but don't mark that. I got to make sure with the powers that be that we get the room and everything. So that's the first update. And the second is our water supply update. So I don't know if you're up to speed, Chris, but obviously over the last few years, we've had outdoor water restrictions, which have been more than the normal. So the main reason is the Grove Pond Water Treatment Plant. We're not able to produce as much through the new PFAS system. So we're currently working on a solution to that. It's called a clear well storage tank that's just downstream of the plant. So that's in design right now. When that gets put into place, it'll give us the engineering, it'll be an engineering solution to solve our production at Grove Pond and be back to where we used to be pre-PFAS treatment. So that's in a very short nutshell of what's going on. So long term, that's the solution.
Okay, so
but in the short term, monthly, I've been giving updates, myself or Kimberly Abraham, the water sewer superintendent, to the board, who are the water and sewer commissioners, as to where we're at with our water production and our water supply. And so in the winter months, we're pretty good. And in the summer months, we get a lot higher demand with the outdoor watering. And it's summertime, people are consuming more water. We have a Pepsi plant in town. So since the last update, we've kind of continued to face similar challenges. You'll notice in the memo my memo in the packet. Essentially, the only difference between last month, and this month is we're not topping off the tanks every day. Usually, our storage tanks, we can top off in the mornings and then they come down, but we're having to run the wells pretty much constantly. The weekends, they've been topping off. So we're entering that summer demand pattern where there's a lot higher demand. So at this time, though, that's essentially what's been going on. We don't recommend any changes to the current outdoor water restrictions, and the current restrictions are ones that we're required to do as a community by our Water Management Act permit. They're the odd even 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. restrictions. So those are required by our permit, and those are what's in place right now. So no recommendation to change that, and we'll give you another water update at either the next meeting or next month. Depending on how we're doing. So that's all I have for tonight. I don't know if you have any questions. It's just some updates, really. But
Did you have any questions, Tom?
Yeah, just on running the wells that extra amount of time, is that, you foresee any fatigue issues or putting off, PM or on those?
Yeah, so yeah, it is kind of, it causes a maintenance headache. Luckily, we were able to do our green sand filter media vessels at Spec Pond Treatment Plant. We were able to replace that green sand in the winter time, luckily, and still be able to run that plant. But you're right, with the wells constantly running, especially Spec Pond running high, it's going to burn motors and pumps quicker. And also being able to get to a well cleaning. So we did have an issue, I want to say, was it a year or two ago, where we did lose a motor on well 1 at Spec Pond. And so we were in kind of a bind then. We were able to get through. We do have emergency interconnections with Devons and Littleton. So if we get into a bind, we use those. And we also speak to the big users like the Pepsis to halt production until we can get our heads around it. So that is a good point, though. That is something that will be caused by running those so hard. Yeah.
All right.
Nothing else?
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, Dan.
Sounds good. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.
Great. Next up is reserve fund transfer requests.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. There are 3 reserve fund transfers for your consideration this evening, and I'll just go through each of them, and I know that the department heads are here if needed. So just an overview, just to remind the board that the current balance in the FY24 reserve fund is $175,000. So we haven't accessed anything to date. And as the board is aware, reserve fund transfers require approval by both the select board and the finance committee. After tonight, we'll be scheduling a meeting, with the finance committee for their review and approval. And the last point, because we don't do these often and usually not till this time of year, towards the end of the fiscal year, a reserve fund transfer specifically is for any unforeseen or extraordinary impact to a budget that has occurred, because obviously there's a whole year from the time we set the budget, things can happen. So the first one for your consideration in the packet is for the Town Council Legal Services account 01151. I'm requesting $30,000 in a reserve fund transfer for this budget. I also want to add that if the entire amount is not needed, it reverts back to the fund, obviously. So $30,000. The present balance in the budget is $13,821.73, and that's up through March. So we still have the April invoice, the May invoice, and the June invoice for Town Council. And as I mentioned, this is extraordinary and unforeseen, as beginning in February of 2024, the town became involved in an ongoing property enforcement matter, which was unforeseen at the time. And the FY24 legal service budget, at the time it was developed, we did not know this was going to occur. And you can see, as I attached in the packet, we were running pretty much in target from the original budgeted amount of $75,000 till we hit about, starting with in March, you can see the spike. Town Council, Attorney Mark Rich, and KP Law also reviewed the accounting, and we feel that the $30,000 would be adequate for the balance of the year. So we'd be looking for your, recommending that you vote to approve.
Any questions, Chris?
No, we went over this a couple days ago, so.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, and now the information's in the packet. So I'll make a motion that the board approved the reserve fund transfer request in the amount of $30,000 for legal services as presented.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's approved.
Thank you. The second one is a reserve fund transfer request for the unemployment budget line for unemployment compensation, account 01913, requesting $2,178. There's actually currently a negative balance in this account of $1,725. And what has driven this, what was unforeseen, is there was an employee that was let go and has collected the maximum of unemployment for the maximum 26, pay periods, and that has resulted in this slight deficit in this account from the benefits and payroll manager. So it'd be, this has occurred on occasion in the past with the unemployment account budget. She does a pretty good job in trying to project the impact, but sometimes there's a slight variance. So be looking for your support on that.
No questions? All right. Make a motion that the board approve the reserve fund transfer request for the unemployment compensation account in the amount of $2,178 as presented.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All right, thank you. And then last but not least, Mr. Chair, the information technology RFT, and Ms. Cindy Knox was kind enough to come this evening if there are any questions. We're requesting a RFT of $40,000 for the IT account, account 01166. The present balance in the budget, we're actually at a negative $15,500. And you can see attached an accounting provided, but specifically the IT budget what has impacted the budget in FY24 is due to the following unknown new costs. And if you recall, we talked about these at the first public budget forum, so we sort of knew this was coming. The first is new costs for town email. So at the time we set the budget, all town email, there wasn't a cost for it. With new security provisions, we have to pay per email account. And I think this is for a larger discussion by the board at another time. Ayer is unique in that we provide town email accounts to all of our boards, committees, and commissions. And so the new costs now, it's about $40,000 towards the security for that. So that's one of the big drivers. There were also some other server security requirements that went into effect that we knew were coming into effect in March, but we didn't know at the time of the budget. And Cindy has attached sort of a breakdown with the shortage and the amount that we're requesting. The good news is we have prepared for this accordingly for the FY25 budget. So July 1st, we're covered on this front, and we are moving forward with our plan for IT. So if there are any specific questions for either myself or for Cindy, we'd be looking for your support on that RFT.
Okay.
No, I don't have any specific questions right now, but just as we said, in the future, it's something to definitely revisit. But
Yes.
that's not a discussion now.
Yeah, we agree. I'd like to come back, we'd like to come back to the board to talk about the email and some of the other things. And there's going to be some other positive changes with IT as we move forward.
Okay. All right. I'll make a motion that the board approve the reserve fund transfer request in the amount of $40,000 for the IT services account as presented.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Chair, Selectman Tavares, thank you.
All right. And next up is your
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just briefly on the administrative update, you have in your packet the warrants that were reviewed and approved since the board last met on May 7th. In terms of the administrative update, I also would like to formally welcome Selectman Chris Tavares, and welcome to your first meeting. I look forward to working with you. We have been mostly focused this time of year on preparing for the year-end, closing out FY24, preparing for FY25, both financially as well as in terms of new projects and so forth, moving forward. As the board is aware, there were a lot of exciting projects approved by town meeting in April, so those will be getting underway. This is a very busy time for DPW. It's an extremely busy time for parks, and I'm pleased with the transition plan that we have put in place, and a lot of thanks to, again, Chris for his work on the park side with that. So it's been a busy time there. So I think we're in good shape looking to the summer. Other couple updates, just on the acquisition of the 71 Sandy Pond Road land at town meeting. I did get an update from town council that the title search and the closing material is on schedule. If you recall, we have 60 days from April 22nd to close. So I anticipate coming to the board either the first meeting in June or definitely the second meeting in June. Probably the second meeting in June for the closing. The board will have to, approve those documents, and then the town will officially own that property. In the meantime, the DPW is looking at, obviously there will be once the town closes on the property, as the board knows, and we will discuss in detail, there needs to be a whole public process on the ultimate use of that land. But one of the thoughts from the beginning, at least in the interim, for the rest of the beach season, potentially could some of it be used for interim parking. And I want to stress just interim parking, that there is a blank canvas there. So DPW is just looking to what would be involved, to do that for this season. We will keep, the board updated on that. So that closing is moving forward. What I would propose to the board for the June 4th meeting is we perhaps start the discussion. It could be under my report. Begin the discussion. We usually do this over a couple of meetings about goals for the upcoming year, goals that the board would like to see from myself and Ms. Antonellis, and we'll have some goals as well, but also with the board, in addition to all of the other important stuff we do during the year. So maybe just homework assignment for all of us, and we can start that discussion on the 4th. Also planned for the 4th, at the end of the meeting, will be the reorganization of the board when the full board is here. That will also include the assignments to the committees, and that's the purview of the board, and we'll be looking at the summer schedule. So unless there's any specific questions from the board on any administrative matters, that's sort of my report for tonight in a nutshell, shortly.
Good.
All right. And I have one action item, and through you, Mr. Chair, I'd ask the police chief to come to the table.
Hello, Chief Dill.
Chief. And this is for approval of the intermunicipal agreement for regional dispatch services. So just to frame the issue, as the board is aware, the town is in a regional dispatch with Shirley, in which the dispatch center is housed by the town of Ayer and provides emergency dispatch services for both Ayer and Shirley. This came about at a time where Shirley was in need of dispatch, and on the state level, state 911 that oversees dispatch, they really want there to be regional dispatches. And so the decision was made 4 years ago now, right?
2018, believe it or not.
2018, time flies. 2018, we entered into this intermunicipal agreement with Shirley with the support and the blessing of State 911 to serve both towns. If we hadn't done that at the time, we would have had to look towards joining, say, whether it was Devon's or a larger regional dispatch. So just to give the historic background to it. We've had this agreement in place. It's worked well. The police chief, initially Chief Murray, and now, of course, Chief Gill, is the director of the center. All of the dispatchers are Ayer employees, and it is a 21st century center that has worked well. So the agreement that you have is pretty much the same agreement that was in place, with two areas that I wanted to highlight for tonight. The first one is under Section 6, which is the personnel of the regional dispatch. Historically, number 4, and this is an agreement with Shirley and State 911. When this agreement was first put together, Shirley was going to have a seat at the bargaining table during contract negotiations. not only have they not exercised that, they don't want to exercise that, this is Shirley, but also where they're all Air employees governed under a Air collective bargaining agreement, it would really be not appropriate. So there is no issue on Shirley's end or our end or state 911, but I just want to flag that as number 4 would be deleted. And then to the meat of the agreement, which is section 11, or XI, I see we still have Roman numerals here, is the assessment piece. So what has been the challenge has been Shirley's ability and capacity to pay. And since the beginning, or they've been paying $145,000 a year, we've been paying our part, and then state 911 has been funding the balance from Shirley. And through these negotiations, all entities, including Shirley, have agreed that we need to get Shirley to a point where Air and Shirley are at the 50-50, we're each equal, okay? So you will see in the agreement for FY25, Shirley's assessment, which is at $145,000, will go up to $175,000. And state 911, through the state grant, will pay the remaining balance of $130,545, okay? When we go to FY26, the Shirley assessment will go up to $200,000, and state 911 will pay the remaining balance up to $130,545. We will actually be less, but that's the maximum cap. And then when we get to FY27, and the chief can affirm this too, by FY27, now we're in the ballpark of being more at the 50-50. So they would pay, Shirley would pay $225,000, and state 911, whatever balance there is up to 130 would fund that. And then for the successor agreement, through the efforts of the chief and state 911, we will finally be at the equitable point that we want to be at. So, and I understand, and the chief understands, and from this board, and people have expressed this concern, you know, about Shirley paying its fair share and so forth. Shirley doesn't deny that either. It's a capacity to pay. And yes, state 911 has been, in the words of many, subsidizing Shirley. I think the positive piece about this agreement is at the end of it, we're at a point where we need to be. So that is it in a nutshell. Of course, any questions from the board, or chief, if I missed anything. The Shirley Select Board is scheduled to vote and approve this at their next meeting on June 3rd. And we would be asking for your vote to approve this evening after any questions you may have.
I don't have any questions.
Now, this is, I do like the omittance here of, under 6.4, because that can get tricky. When you're, you have town employees that almost report to a different town.
Yes.
So I think that's a good add or delete, if you want to say that. Other than that, I think it looks great.
All right. And so I'll make a motion that the board approve the intermunicipal agreement between the town of Ayer and the town of Shirley regarding the Ayer Shirley Regional Emergency Communications Center as presented.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And it's approved.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
And Mr. Chair, unless there's any questions from members of the board, that concludes my report for tonight.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
There was nothing listed under new business or member questions, but did you have anything tonight? Or?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
And then I'll make a motion to table the approval of the meeting minutes to the next meeting.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. And that brings us to the end. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And we're adjourned.